Deeper within a dark cave, a sharp pickaxe striking stone echoes loudly. A young man with striking white hair pauses as he spots glowing, blue droplets seeping from a ceiling crack. His eyes widen, sparking with excitement. He's finally found exactly what he's looking for. Carefully, he positions a bottle to catch the precious falling liquid, identifying the glowing substance as a rare ink. The young man thanks the small, black cat perched on his shoulder. Nero, acknowledging this discovery was only possible, thanks to his keen senses. He then gazes toward the light at the cave's exit, thinking that if he brings this ink back, the pioneering corps might finally accept him. Feeling a wave of relief, he steps out of the cave onto a desolate gray wasteland, gazing toward a massive, radiant metropolis in the distance. Meanwhile, inside that gleaming city, a crowd erupts in cheers for elite warriors, known as colorists, who stride proudly with vibrant, colorful hair. Two citizens admire these powerful warriors. They chat about how the team just took down another massive, giant creature. They know that as long as these heroes are around, their shining city will remain safe. However, the scene dramatically shifts to the darker, grimmer Shadow District. A long line of people waits outside a building, where a bulletin board loudly announces the entrance exam for the C-rank Pioneering Corps, stating that anyone with color is welcome. Suddenly, and without warning, the white-haired young man is violently thrown out, crashing onto the ground as two examiners glare down at him. One examiner yells that, "This place isn't for people like him." The young man stands up, bristling with frustration, holding out the precious bottle of blue ink. He demands to know what the problem is, insisting this ink proves his qualifications. The examiner points an accusing finger at the boy, and spells out the harsh, undeniable reality. He's rejected simply because he's colorless. He explains that in this world, roles are cruelly decided at birth, and mocks the boy for not knowing his place. The red-haired examiner unleashes a powerful surge of crimson energy. He aggressively calls the young man a damn colorless. The white-haired protagonist flinches back, groaning in agony as the energy washes over him. Standing triumphantly at the top of the stairs, the examiner lectures the kneeling boy about the true meaning of pioneers. With a sneering, arrogant expression, he boldly declares that only truly chosen individuals, like himself, are even capable of becoming one. The examiner then explains that the desolate black lands, outside the city's walls, are a perilous place where the weak simply cannot survive. It's a terrifying, unforgiving landscape, completely swallowed by darkness and crawling with dangerous beasts. Known as creatures, he glorifies the brave pioneers, who risk their very lives to explore, gather vital resources, and battle these monsters for humanity's sake. In doing so, they earn the revered title of heroes. Snapping back to the present, the examiner stares coldly at the protagonist. He states that for a colorless person, achieving such grand things is utterly impossible. He further insults the boy, telling him to know his place and stick to menial, unimportant work. He then issues a chilling final threat, warning the boy he'll die if he ever dares to return. With a harsh slam, the door shuts, leaving the boy alone. The protagonist looks down as a soft, curious sound emerges from his chest. Nero, the mischievous black cat, pokes his head out of the boy's jacket. The protagonist pets the cat gently, saying they can just try somewhere else, because he's quite used to this kind of harsh rejection. Despite the stinging humiliation, he forces a determined smile, and promises Nero that he will become the greatest colorist ever. He quickly tucks the cat back inside his clothes, worried someone might spot them. The protagonist walks through the grimy, industrial streets, wondering where in the world to go next. As he walks dejectedly, he hopes to find a place that will finally accept them. Unaware, he's being watched from above by a mysterious man with green hair. Later, the protagonist stands in a bustling plaza, checking his worn notebook. He violently crosses out yet another location in a book, already filled with countless crossed-out names, realizing he has truly been rejected everywhere. He sighs, exhausted, defeated, and utterly resigned. He approaches a building, its sign clearly stating, "Mari Workshop." He mutters, "It can't be helped." He opens the door, calling out to the owner within. A girl with white hair and goggles pushes up her glasses and greets him with a cheerful, welcoming smile. Marie quickly spots the protagonist's gloomy expression and instantly guesses he failed another exam. As Nero hops onto the table, she warmly greets the cat. She tries to lift the protagonist's spirits, insisting the examiners are simply blind to his talent. Still discouraged, he asks what good his strength is. If no one will accept a colorless person like him, Marie passionately argues his skills are already proven by the fact he successfully brings back vital resources from the perilous black lands. The protagonist remains humble, claiming his survival is only possible because Nero helps him, then swiftly changes the subject. He places a bottle of vibrant blue ink on the table and asks if she can buy it from him. Mari is absolutely delighted, agreeing to pay him handsomely. She pours the vivid blue liquid into a complex pipe system, lamenting that ink prices have utterly skyrocketed due to severe shortages. The protagonist notes, this very scarcity is why people are desperate for more pioneers. A quick view of the elaborate machinery shows their entire livelihood hinges on these precious, colorful fluids. The protagonist sighs again, frustrated that no corps will hire him for his talents. Marie then asks if he's thought about her previous suggestion. When he hesitates, saying the place she mentioned still seems a bit. Mari abruptly slams a piece of paper down on the table, shouting that he has to try everything. The flyer reveals a recruitment notice for the prestigious S-rank, Dawn Pioneering Corps, stating the entrance test is open to times all asterisk, and is based strictly on times, skill, times alone. The protagonist stares at the paper in stunned shock. He admits he always hesitated to apply to such a prestigious S-rank corps. Assuming he would simply fail, he wonders aloud if a place like Times, that Times would truly recognize his skills. Marie emphatically encourages him to take the chance, reaffirming that if this is truly skill-based, he might finally get the recognition he deserves. Marie smiles, reminding him that he's wanted to be a colorist for ages. A flashback reveals a young, lonely protagonist, caught in the rain, clutching Nero close, showing he's held this dream since childhood. Marie reassures him she'll always have his back. Bolstered by her confidence, the protagonist smiles, deciding he can't hesitate any longer. He firmly clutches the recruitment flyer, filled with renewed determination. He waves goodbye to Marie and heads out of the workshop, walking through the quiet alleys of the Shadow District. The protagonist clutches the flyer, thinking he needs to prepare thoroughly for the exam. Suddenly, he halts as Nero reacts to a presence behind them. A voice casually asks what's wrong, and a hand holding a wooden wand, tipped with a glowing green orb, appears from the shadows. It's the green-haired man, who had been spying on him. He aims his wand directly at the protagonist, a magical crosshair locking onto his back. Without hesitation, he fires a blade of green energy. The protagonist turns in shock, but he's too slow. The energy blast strikes him violently, causing him to scream in agony. As he collapses, the green-haired man and his assistant stand over him. The attacker mocks him, noting that although he dodged a direct kill shot, he'll be dead soon anyway. Bleeding and unable to move, the protagonist lies on the pavement, while the attacker coldly remarks that no one cares if a colorless person dies. The protagonist weakly calls out to his cat, seeing Nero's terrified face peeking from his clothes. The boy uses his last ounce of strength to urge the cat to run away. The scene shifts to an industrial area, marked with a warning for an ink waste disposal site. The protagonist groans as he regains consciousness, only to see the green-haired man smiling down at him. The man holds him by the collar, dangled over a massive vat of black, viscous sludge. The villain cruelly taunts our protagonist, claiming it's bad luck to be thrown in, especially while still alive. The attacker reveals the pit holds industrial ink waste, a deadly concoction that dissolves anything it touches, ensuring no trace of a body will remain. Terrified, the protagonist struggles desperately, demanding to know this man's identity and why he's being attacked. The green-haired man reveals that he and his partner were shocked earlier while spying on him. A flashback shows that as they watched, their interest wasn't in the boy at all, but in the creature hiding in his jacket. The man explains that a creature intelligent enough to follow a human is an incredible, rare discovery. He declares Nero a true rarity as he tightens his grip on the protagonist's throat. Behind him, his assistant holds up a small cage. Inside, Nero sits trapped and whimpering. The protagonist watches on in horror, realizing his beloved companion has been captured. Desperate, the protagonist grabs the green-haired man's collar, screaming at him to let go of the cat. The attacker remains utterly unimpressed, mocking the boy's anger as pathetic. His eyes glow with insatiable greed as, he explains, this creature is far too valuable for a colorless owner and will be sold for a huge sum on the black market. He easily overpowers the boy, choking him and lifting him into the air, sneering that the pet is simply too good for him. As he hangs there, helpless, the protagonist scolds himself for being so careless. In the Shadow District, he reflects on his lonely past, thinking that, while he's always endured discrimination, he absolutely refuses to lose Nero, his only family, over something like this. With a sudden burst of fury, he warns the man not to mess with him, tightening his grip on the attacker's arm. The green-haired man pauses, noticing something strange. His expression shifts from arrogant to utter shock. As energy crackles around his face, A swirling green aura streams from the attacker, pouring into the protagonist's hands. The man cries out in sheer panic, feeling something forcibly ripped from his body. Terrified by this bizarre sensation, the man violently shakes the boy away, flinging him backward into a vat of toxic ink. What a waste. The attacker dismisses the encounter as a waste of time, while Nero cries desperately from his cage. The villains declare themselves rich, then head straight to the black market. They ignore the cat's tears, deep beneath the black liquid. The protagonist watches the light fade, Nero's cries growing distant. He tries to swim, but his body is paralyzed as memories flash before his eyes. He wonders if his story will end in this dark pit. However, a vision of his younger self clutching the cat appears. He realizes he cannot give up yet, because he still has a promise to keep. Deep within a void, a mysterious voice asks the unconscious protagonist, "Why are you doing nothing?" Confused, the protagonist asks the voice to identify itself. Large text flashes before him, commanding him to accept it. A torrent of thoughts rains down, urging him to save Nero and accept his true color. The protagonist's face becomes obscured by shadow, as the voice demands he take back his power. A hand reaches out, from a swirling vortex of black liquid. The protagonist stands motionless, as a tendril of darkness dissipates above him. He looks down at his hands, now writhing with black energy. Confused that he was inside the ink, his memories are fragmented. But he pushes those thoughts aside, to focus on what truly matters now. A silhouette of shadow with glowing white eyes. He questions what he has become. A soft whimpering sound cuts through the silence, catching the entity's attention. He looks up to see two blurry figures, standing high above, holding a small cage. Inside, Nero cries out at the sight of his companion, jolts the protagonist back to reality. He resolves then and there to save Nero. He extends a shadowy hand towards the men. Suddenly, a massive geyser of black energy erupts from the depths. The green-haired man and his assistant recoil in terror, screaming as they stare down into the disposal pit. They're utterly shocked to see the deadly pool of ink has vanished. Only a lone, dark figure stands at the bottom. The entity, emanating an ominous aura, begins to stride right towards them. The green-haired man trembles in sheer terror, his eyes wide with utter disbelief, as a gigantic claw of shadow descends upon them. He stammers, wondering if this terrifying being is even a creature. The aftermath of the explosion leaves behind a scene of total devastation. In the Shadow District, a frantic older man screams at a police officer, insisting he saw a small hand suddenly spring out from seemingly nowhere, causing a massive eruption of dark energy that completely wrecked the entire area. As the dust settles, medics carry away the unconscious bodies of the green-haired attacker and his assistant. A new group of arrivals observes the victims, a man with red hair and a woman with blue hair. Look down at the injured men, noting that these B-rank pioneers have completely lost their color. The blue-haired woman is baffled, unable to understand what could possibly drain a person's color, but her companion suggests they focus on their mission. The red-haired man states they came because of reports of a large creature appearing within the city. The police officer on site is stunned to realize he is speaking to high-ranking colorists. He nervously asks why such elite individuals are in the Shadow District, and the blue-haired woman politely explains they are there to investigate. The red-haired man asks to be shown the impact site, and the intimidated officer leads the way. The two investigators stand before the massive crater. The red-haired man meticulously inspects the debris and spots some dark stains. Meanwhile, his partner confirms they've found traces of a creature. She points out it's highly irregular for one to suddenly appear inside the city, especially the outskirts. She explains that usually, only small animals are ever found within the city walls. Gazing into the deep pit, the red-haired man wonders if they're dealing with a new monster variant. He looks bored, yet serious, realizing that tracking this unique entity will be troublesome, since it doesn't fit their usual patterns. The scene shifts to a desolate landscape, where rubble is piled high. In the darkness, a cat cries out. Kay, lying in the shadows, groans in pain. He feels a rough tongue, and wakes to find Nero licking his hair. Overcome with relief, Kay immediately pulls Nero into a tight hug, overjoyed that his beloved cat is safe. However, the physical pain hits him, and he winces. Kay sits up, confused, trying to piece together what happened. He remembers the bastards who attacked him, and threw him into the vat. Recalling falling into the toxic, black liquid and sinking, his eyes widen in shock as he processes his survival. He holds up his hands in disbelief, wondering if the impossible has happened. He touches his head and feels something different. His hair, once white, is now jet black. K grips his new black hair, staring forward with utter confusion, unable to understand how he's still alive, or why his appearance has drastically changed. Standing in the pitch-black darkness, K looks around, wondering why he can't see anything. He calls out desperately to his companion, asking Nero for help. In response, the black cat leaps into the air and spins rapidly, emitting a blinding, white glow that illuminates the area. The sudden light reveals a terrifying scene. They're in a deep cavern, surrounded by swarms of dark, monstrous creatures. K stares in shock, stammering as he tries to process where they are. He realizes, with a jolt of horror, they're in the Black Lands, a desolate wasteland, far outside the city. He recalls this area, the Black Forest, is notoriously deadly. Only B-rank pioneers permitted entry. Realizing monsters are swarming them, K panics. He yells for Nero to follow and immediately flees. The glowing cat flies alongside him, lighting the path as K runs for his life. He barely dodges a massive shadow-like serpent, exclaiming the situation is incredibly dangerous. Despite the danger, K thanks Nero for the light. As they race through the dark forest, they scramble up rocky cliffs to escape the beasts chasing them, and K follows Nero's light as they plunge down a deep, vertical drop to put distance between themselves and the horde. As he runs, K's expression shifts from fear to confusion as he notices something strange about his physical condition. He looks at his chest, where dark energy radiates, and realizes his body feels amazing. He notes with surprise that, even after running for so long, he's not tired at all. He leaps across a wide chasm with incredible ease, realizing he's moving faster, and with more agility than ever. He lands firmly, stunned by the realization his body is overflowing with a new, mysterious energy. Nero senses danger first, his ears perking up as he notices a threat approaching. A ferocious, wolf-like shadow creature lunges at K, catching him off guard. K realizes too late his defensive stance is weak, and he can't block the attack. Certain he's about to die, he squeezes his eyes shut and braces for the bite. The monster's teeth clamp down hard on K's arm, but instead of tearing skin, a loud cracking sound echoes. The beast's teeth shatter completely upon impact, leaving the creature utterly confused. K opens his eyes, stunned to find himself alive. The shadow wolf, now toothless and terrified, whimpers and retreats into the bushes. K inspects his arm, utterly baffled that he's completely fine. Not a scratch. He stares at his hands in utter disbelief, realizing a hit like that should have been instantly fatal. His eyes widen even further, as he finally grasps that this incredible durability is the power of color he's been desperately searching for. Suddenly, heavy tremors violently shake the ground, immediately grabbing both K and Nero's attention. A massive silhouette begins to ominously rise from the darkness, towering over them. A giant, one-eyed monster claws its way over the ridge, glowing with truly menacing energy. K stares up in utter horror, instantly identifying the monstrous beast as a cyclops. As the monster raises a massive arm, poised to crush him, K can't help but wonder why a predator that usually lurks deep within the Black Forest is this far out in the open. The cyclops slams its colossal fist into the ground, with an earth-shattering, explosive force, causing Nero to yelp as debris explodes and flies everywhere. K survives the impact, sitting stunned amidst the rubble. He admits the blow was incredibly heavy, but a confident, almost wicked, grin spreads across his face, as he realizes he actually has a real chance to win. Memories of his past being a lonely child, facing constant rejection and being brutally beaten down, flash vividly through his mind. He acknowledges that he has finally obtained the power he always desperately longed for, and decides, once and for all, things will be different now. Energy crackles violently around his arm as he clenches his fist, resolving that he does not need to run away anymore. He stands his ground, unwavering, clenching his fist, resolving he is utterly done running. Memories of his past struggles vividly flood his mind. He focuses on that strange, incredibly powerful sensation rising from deep within him, and suddenly, his entire body is engulfed in swirling shadow. He transforms into a being of pure, dark energy, with piercing, glowing white eyes. The Cyclops roars furiously, enraged, and reaches out with its massive, giant hand to crush the small figure. However, K launches himself off the ground, with explosive force, rocketing through the air. He prepares to strike. He delivers a devastating punch that completely shatters the colossal monster into countless pieces. The sheer force of the blow creates a massive shockwave that blasts violently through the entire landscape. Carving a path through the dense forest, K rockets through the sky. Amidst the wreckage of his defeated enemy, He holds his powerful transformed state for a moment. But then, something shifts. His eyes snap open, sensing a drastic change. The shadowy energy abruptly vanishes, and he finds himself floating, weightless, soaring high above a vibrant, lush landscape. Beneath a brilliant sun, he gazes down, stunned by the vibrant forest and the crashing waterfall, utterly captivated by nature's vivid colors around him. Yet, just as swiftly as it came, the immense power vanishes, and his hair snaps back to white. He stares down, utterly bewildered. Panic surges as he feels gravity reclaim its hold. He's absolutely helpless, plummeting through the air. A scream of terror escapes him as he plummets toward the trees, only to crash violently into the forest below. Kei claws his way out of the debris from his crash. Meanwhile, Nero hovers anxiously above, looking concerned. Kei drops to his knees, desperately gasping for breath, as the volatile dark energy that once enveloped him begins to evaporate rapidly, like wisps of smoke. Then, he suddenly realizes, with chilling horror, that his very color is rapidly fading. Absolute panic seizes Kei as he finally grasps the terrifying drawback of his new ability. He grasps that the more he unleashes this intense power, the faster it violently drains from his very being. At this rate, he'll be left completely defenseless. Without warning, the world around him plunges into pitch black. A chilling, mysterious voice then echoes in his mind, demanding to know, "What are you waiting for?" The voice commands him, urging him to act now. It points out that his ultimate prey is lying right there, directly before him, and fiercely urging him, "Eat it quickly." Kei stares down at the scattered, grotesque remains of the Cyclops he just defeated. The sinister voice then manipulates him, questioning him, "Do you truly wish to live?" and instructing him to simply reach out his hand. Utterly exhausted and drenched in sweat, Kei struggles to stay conscious. He wears an expression of utter desperation, while the voice relentlessly demands he use his hand. His eyes glow faintly as he desperately fights for survival. Trembling, he obeys the raw, instinctual command, and slowly reaches his hand toward the monster's remains. Kei firmly places his hand on the Cyclops' gruesome carcass. Immediately, a terrifying dark technique activates. He starts to devour the shadowy energy, still clinging to the monster's vanquished form. Nero stares, eyes wide with a mix of shock and awe, as his owner pulls off this terrifying feat. Suddenly, a massive pillar of black light erupts from the forest, piercing the very sky as Kei completely consumes the mysterious energy. As the ominous light fades, Kei is left panting heavily, the crushing exhaustion slowly draining from his body. He leans back against a sturdy rock, his hair now a deep black once more, his energy fully restored. He gazes up at the vast sky above, letting out a deep sigh of immense relief, realizing he's actually going to survive this ordeal. Back at Mari's bustling workshop, the day seems surprisingly peaceful inside. Mari diligently works on a new blueprint, when the cheerful door chime suddenly catches her attention. She looks up to find a mysterious, silhouetted figure cloaked in ragged fabric, standing ominously in the doorway. Trying to be polite, Mari greets the strange visitor with a cautious smile, though she's already trembling with an unsettling nervousness. She asks if they have a special request for her, but the hooded figure simply stands there, unmoving, emanating a palpable dark aura. The stranger then takes a heavy, deliberate step forward. Mari, now visibly on edge, calls out to him, pointing out how suspicious he looks. When he continues to slowly approach, she panics and quickly snatches up a hefty wrench, warning him she'll attack if he dares to come any closer. The figure suddenly lunges directly toward her, causing Mari to scream out in sheer terror, and instinctively squeeze her eyes shut. However, the intruder abruptly stops, then slowly pulls back his hood, revealing a surprisingly familiar, sheepish smile. He calmly tells her to settle down. Kei fully reveals his face, scratching his head sheepishly. He tells her, "It's just me," though he admits he barely recognizes himself these days. Mari drops her defensive stance, her eyes wide with utter shock as she stammers, completely unable to process the drastic change in his features. Her voice echoes far outside as she screams in utter disbelief, demanding to know just what in the world happened to his appearance. Mari is shaking violently, clutching a heavy metal pipe in sheer fear, as she confronts the intimidating hooded figure. Suddenly, her fear violently explodes, transforming into a fiery rage. She then pulls out both a heavy hammer and another wrench, screaming that she will never forgive those bastards who hurt him. She swings her tools wildly, shouting they all deserve to have their heads smashed. Meanwhile, Kei frantically tries to calm her down, assuring her he's fine. Realizing it's truly him, Marie carefully sets the wrench down, admitting she got a little carried away, because she was absolutely terrified after losing contact with him for so long. Her expression softens into a relieved smile, and she tells Kay she's just happy he's safe. Kay apologizes for making her worry. Internally, Kay reflects on the sheer absurdity of his situation, thinking that surviving a fall into toxic ink and gaining a color is utterly unbelievable. He voices a concern to Marie, noting that his new color is black, which is heavily associated with monsters. He wonders if people will now look at him in a bad light. However, he quickly brushes that worry aside, deciding that what truly matters is that he finally has the chance to become a colorist. He declares he'll go straight to the pioneering course, entrance exam, and thanks Marie for all her help. Kay then sheepishly asks if he can borrow some clothes, promising to return them. Marie looks exasperated, sighing, and asking how many times he's going to beg. However, she then smiles warmly, telling him to consider it in a way. Investment in a future colorist. She suddenly grabs Kay's hand and pulls him along, telling him to follow her. Kay looks surprised, as she cheerfully announces she has the perfect items. For him, the scene shifts to a large crowd of aspiring pioneers, marching up the stairs of a massive, Colosseum-like building. Inside, hundreds of participants gather on the floor, which is marked with large, white square platforms, preparing for the exam. Among the crowd, a group of 3 men chats nervously. A man with blue hair, bearing the No. 183 on his chest, tries to calm his anxious friend. The friend, with pinkish hair, expresses disbelief that they've made it this far, preparing to take the test for the prestigious Dawn Pioneering Corps. This S-rank group is known for its incredible achievements in exploring the dangerous, black lands, comprised of skilled colorists. They're considered the Shining City's ultimate hope. Yet, the candidates are clearly on edge, with so many formidable rivals having gathered. The group's attention lands on a woman with long, turquoise hair, rumored to be the daughter of a prestigious color family, standing right next to a man in a beanie. They also quickly spot several other rising stars, like a boy with striking pink hair and goggles, and even a man wearing a gas mask. But despite these strong contenders, the group all agree that one individual truly dominates the spotlight. Their gazes shift towards a young man with messy, green hair and intensely fierce eyes. This is Gale, the legendary Gale Sword, and everyone believes his success is practically guaranteed. Whispers suggest he's powerful enough to single-handedly take down dangerous creatures, completely on his own. However, he's also infamous for his cruel and violent nature, which, rumor has it, got him expelled from his previous corps. The blue-haired man, number 183, lets out an arrogant laugh, claiming he isn't afraid of guys like Gale. Suddenly, a chilling dark shadow falls over him. Gale appears right behind the boasting man, daring him to repeat himself. The blue-haired man freezes in sheer terror, as Gale glares down at them with utter contempt, calling them nothing more than ridiculous brats. Gale turns and walks away, sighing in disappointment. He complains that, despite this being an S-rank exam, the competition is incredibly lackluster. As he surveys the participants, he mentally dismisses them all, thinking there isn't a single standout among them. However, his eyes narrow as he spots one intriguing exception, the turquoise-haired girl. He identifies her as Ellie Kian, the second daughter of the Cyan family. Gale smirks, admitting she's at least decent enough to catch his eye. As he reaches a hand out towards the crowd, in his imagination, wondering with anticipation how they'll all react to the grueling upcoming test. A mechanical speaker crackles loudly to life, demanding the candidates' immediate attention. Gale and Ellie both turn their heads towards the stage, as the booming voice declares that the entrance exam for the Dawn Pioneering Corps. The moment has arrived. A man with bright, blonde hair and piercing yellow eyes steps onto the podium, declaring the test begins times now asterisk. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd as they realize the examiner is a legendary colorist from the elite Dawn Pioneering Corps. Candidates buzz with excited whispers, recognizing him as a true hero who significantly contributed to a recent creature hunt. It dawns on them that, if an elite colorist like Times has appeared, the Corps must be deadly serious about this recruitment. An overwhelming presence washes over the candidates, radiating from him. As they note that S-rank Corps members are truly on a different level, the examiner gazes down at the crowd, offering a cold welcome. He thanks everyone for applying, acknowledging they each harbor their own goals, be it wealth, power, honor, or duty. However, he declares, coldly, that none of those reasons actually matter. His eyes glowing, the examiner explains that, in the end, only skill times will allow a person to achieve anything. He emphatically declares, they seek overwhelmingly strong candidates, capable of venturing deep into the Black Lands, to reclaim lost human territory. He commands them to look around, stating that mediocre individuals are simply not needed, and they will start times immediately asterisk. He gestures toward the square platforms on the ground, announcing the first test, a brutal tournament. He explains that combat ability is the time's most crucial times skill for a pioneer, because the world beyond the city walls is a brutal place, where only the fittest can hope to survive. He clenches his fist tightly, and commands the candidates to times prove their abilities asterisk. He explains that those who advance past the first round will be decided by the tournament results, and instructs them to step onto the designated stage. When their number is called, the examiner calls out, number 126, and number 286. Gale, number 126, steps forward with a grim expression. The crowd murmurs, calling Gale a true heavyweight, and expressing pity for whoever has to face him so early on. Gale, however, lets out a wicked smile, thinking he's lucky to have some fun right from the start, as he's been utterly bored stiff. His eyes gleam with predatory delight as he schemes how to toy with his opponent. Suddenly, Gale spots someone approaching the stage, wondering what's the deal with this creepy guy. A figure walks toward him, now standing opposite Gale, completely shrouded in a ragged cloak, and they're wearing the number tag 286. Gale scrutinizes him intently, thinking the hooded figure's stance appears awkward and weak. Gale then grips the hilt of his weapon, deciding that words are useless now. He dramatically draws his sword with a sharp, metallic ring, declaring he's absolutely sick of being quiet. Unleashing his full power, he swings his blade, creating massive, swirling streaks of green wind energy. He's definitely not holding anything back. The spectators watch, utterly captivated and in awe, recognizing this signature technique as the formidable Gale sword. As glowing, green energy swords materialize in the air around him, the crowd erupts, praising him as an absolute genius for mastering such advanced swordsmanship at his young age. Gale stares intensely at his opponent, challenging the hooded figure to dare and block his devastating attack. With an explosive burst of speed, Gale stomps the ground, gathering incredible momentum, threatening to absolutely shred his opponent if they fail to defend themselves. He charges forward with incredible, unstoppable force, surrounding himself in a ferocious whirlwind of energy. The hooded figure, however, stands completely still and silent, unmoving in the face of the overwhelming approaching attack. As Gale descends from the air, swinging his blade down with a furious shout, but the hooded figure simply steps in and delivers a devastating left hook right to Gale's face. The impact is so unbelievably powerful that Gale is sent absolutely flying backward across the arena. The arrogant candidates from earlier scream in terror at the unbelievable, shocking sight. Gale crashes violently into the arena wall, creating a massive spider web of cracks that shatter the stone. He slumps forward, unconscious and utterly defeated in a single, humiliating hit, leaving the stunned crowd to wonder how such a thing is even possible. The hooded figure is now revealed to be none other than K. He rubs his wrist, casting his gaze downwards. He admits the sudden jolt even caught him by surprise. His hood falls back, revealing his messy black hair. He reflects on the sudden burst of speed and the chaos of the moment, when suddenly, a spectator points a trembling finger at K, screaming in disbelief. But he isn't pointing at the victory, but at the color of K's energy. It's black. The blonde examiner watches with a serious expression, internally noting that black is the same color as the creatures. Even Ellie Cyan looks utterly stunned, wondering if it's even possible for a human to possess such a color. K stands alone in the center of the arena, completely unaware of the gravity of the situation. The others question aloud if the power that defeated the Gale sword in one hit truly comes from this mysterious, black energy. K looks nervously at the shocked crowd, confused by their intense reaction, and innocently wonders if he's made a mistake. The tournament rages on with intense battles. In one match, a terrified candidate launches sharp stones, but K charges forward, easily evading them. He closes the distance in an instant, and delivers a devastating punch, sending the magic user flying. The announcer declares him the victor. K's winning streak continues as he dominates, violently, slamming another opponent and knocking out a third. High above, the blonde examiner watches with keen interest, declaring K the standout applicant. He excitedly notes that K is the first ever black holder, and insists they must recruit him immediately, before rumors can spread. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approach, and a voice casually remarks that it looks like a tough day. The blonde examiner turns in surprise to see the red-haired man and blue-haired woman from the explosion site. The examiner asks why team leader Red is here, but the man simply waves his hand, claiming they're just passing by. They briefly discuss the ongoing investigation into the large creature incident. The Red Leader lets out a heavy sigh, admitting there's been zero progress. He then inquires about any truly worthy candidates. The examiner brings up a certain young lady from the prestigious Taiyan family and an incredibly unique individual. Then, suddenly, the Red Leader's eyes snap open as he senses something profound. He peers into the arena and immediately spots Kay, instantly recognizing the dark, swirling energy. As the examiner continues to laud Kay, the Red Leader fixates silently on the boy. The blue-haired woman then whispers to her leader, asking if that kid is somehow tied to their investigation. The Red Leader confirms it's highly likely him. Internally, the Red Leader concludes that a brand new color, suddenly appearing right after the Shadow District incident, is simply too massive a coincidence to overlook. He decides to keep a very close eye on Kay for now. Unaware he's under such intense scrutiny, Kay gazes at his clenched fist, which pulses with dark, smoky energy. He's absolutely thrilled by this incredible power, realizing that becoming a pioneer is finally within reach. However, he vividly remembers the physical toll the transformation took and warns himself to proceed with extreme caution. He knows that if he overuses this newfound power, and his color fades mid-fight, he'll be utterly defenseless. Suddenly, a massive surge of freezing energy erupts from the arena, forming a colossal wall of ice. Ellie Qian stands perfectly calm amidst the swirling, cold mist. The announcer declares, "No. 17 the clear winner," revealing she has completely encased her opponent in a solid block of ice. The spectators, Kay included, watch in absolute awe, murmuring that the Xian family's color is truly something else. As Ellie descends the stairs, Kay watches her, wondering, how could anyone possibly defeat such overwhelming magic? Suddenly, Ellie pauses right as she passes Kay, staring directly at him with a sharp, intensely curious gaze. Her blue eyes narrow suspiciously, as she scrutinizes him without uttering a single word. Then, she turns and continues walking, leaving Kay utterly bewildered. The announcer then declares the first exam officially concluded. The blonde examiner stands on the podium, thanking everyone for their hard work. He explains they're behind schedule, so they're moving straight to the next test. He instructs the failed candidates to leave, and they walk away dejectedly. The blonde examiner starts to announce the next test, but a hand on his shoulder cuts him off. The red-haired man steps forward with a confident smile, taking over. He looks at the surviving candidates, and dramatically declares that the second exam will be led personally by him. The candidates look up in shock, realizing it's none other than colorist Red. He's one of the Shining City's strongest colorists, famously known for retaking the Black Lands. However, the candidates are absolutely terrified, recalling chilling rumors. His destructive power is so intense that even allies hesitate to work with him. And when he's in charge of an exam, no one ever passes. The blonde examiner looks worriedly at colorist Red, asking if he's sure, warning that the captain will scold him for changing the exam format. Red simply laughs it off, stating he gets nagged every day anyway. He announces that the test is simple, and tells the crowd to just endure, as his body erupts in massive flames. A giant wave of fire surges toward the terrified applicants, forming individual, spherical barriers around each person, trapping them. The candidates panic, as they're enveloped in intense heat. Red explains he has recreated the environment of a certain region, noting it'll get pretty hot. He illustrates that the Black Lands are full of extreme environments, where humans can barely survive. He belittles the current test, claiming this heat is nothing more than a warm stove. With a serious expression, Red reiterates that if they endure, they pass. However, his eyes narrow coldly, as he adds that anyone unable to withstand this heat never had the qualifications to become a pioneer. Trapped in these fiery spheres, the candidates are truly suffering. One man realizes he can't even scratch the barrier, while others scream out in pure agony. They wonder, completely terrified, what kind of hellish place the Black Lands must truly be. If this times is considered mild. Watching from the sidelines, the blonde examiner notes that despite all the rumors, Red's skills haven't dulled one bit. He marvels at Red's incredible level of control, observing how he instantly engulfed so many people. He acknowledges that this kind of power is exactly what one expects from someone at the very peak. Suddenly, a loud, cracking sound cuts sharply through the air. Red and his assistant look over to see, as one of the fiery barriers turns blue and begins to fracture. A massive surge of ice energy then explodes outward, shattering the fire sphere completely. Amidst the falling shards of ice, Alikian stands tall, having triumphantly broken free. Red looks at her, admitting, "This is pretty good." He reflects that while the Qian family's power is a natural counter to fire, His own power is usually still strong enough to overwhelm that advantage entirely. Staring intently at the young woman, Red concludes she might actually deserve to be called a times-true times prodigy. Red then wonders about the other candidate they were interested in. Inside his fire sphere, K appears to be standing completely still. Red observes him, noting that, unlike the girl, this boy isn't breaking through at all. He admits he didn't expect much from him, honestly. However, inside the barrier, K is utterly panicking, screaming internally that he's in big times trouble. He realizes he used way too much of his color. During the fight with the Gale sword, he looks at his hand in pure horror, noticing his black energy is leaking out, and draining even faster in this heat. K imagines a terrifying future, where his power runs out completely. He knows if he's revealed to be colorless, he will likely be experimented on relentlessly. Desperate, he frantically looks for any times solution, wondering if he can absorb something to replenish his energy somehow. He stares at the wall of intense, consuming fire. A sudden realization hits him. Since the barrier is made of a color ability, he wonders if he can absorb it. He looks at his hand, admitting he doesn't know the limits of his absorption power. Deciding he has no time to think, he's determined to find out. He reaches out and touches the swirling wall of fire. Immediately, a violent reaction occurs, and K is shocked that direct absorption is working. The fire barrier begins to warp and twist, drawing the attention of nearby candidates. A massive vortex of black energy erupts from K, sucking the red flames into his hand. From the podium, Red and the blonde examiner stare down, transfixed, stunned, and unable to comprehend what they are seeing. Red breaks into a nervous sweat, forcing a smile as he remarks, "They've found a real lunatic in the arena." K stands amidst the dissipating energy, looking terrifyingly powerful, red and black aura swirling around his hands. The entire arena falls into a heavy silence. However, internally, K is panicking again. He forces a smile, thinking, this wasn't supposed to happen. He realizes with regret that he's accidentally stood out way too much. Ellie Kian stands frozen, questioning if she is hallucinating. As she stares at the young man, enveloped in dark energy, she looks at K and wonders if black is even a color a human can possess. Recognizing this as something unprecedented, a sense of anxiety washes over her as she watches him. Memories of the pressure to be the best flash through her mind. She's forced to admit that K is undeniably strong. She realizes that even with her full power, she couldn't guarantee a win. As K walks away, Ellie thinks there's something about him that can't be explained by strength alone, asking herself, what is he actually? She quickly shakes her head, trying to dismiss these disturbing thoughts. Colorist Red approaches K and casually wraps an arm around his shoulder. He warns him next time won't be so easy. Red flashes a grin. He remarks that this black ability, capable of devouring everything, is absolutely wild, and he can't possibly hold back his curiosity. He then guides K away, suggesting they have a private conversation. It's to protect K's privacy, sure, but mostly to satisfy his own burning questions. K, nervously sweating, asks about his exam status. Red assures him that with a power level like times that asterisk, he obviously passed. K is utterly stunned, realizing that drawing all that attention actually worked in his favor. Overcome with emotion, he thinks he has finally achieved his dream of becoming a pioneer. Suddenly, the blonde examiner yells at Red for acting on his own. Red just laughs it off, asking his colleague to overlook it just this once. The examiner sighs and announces that, despite the interruption, the exam will continue. He clarifies that, no, 17, Ellie, has passed because she broke the barrier. The other candidates will undergo an additional test. Ellie ignores the announcement, her gaze fixed on the dark tunnel, where Red is leading K away. The scene shifts to a desolate industrial setting. Red stands outside a car with K, while the blue-haired investigator sits in the driver's seat. Red tells her to wait. K looks at his surroundings, and his expression turns to pure shock. He stares at a massive landscape of rubble and utter destruction, realizing with growing horror that Red has brought him back to the exact times location, where he fell into the ink waste. Red, the colorist, looks over the devastated ruins, remarking that it's an ugly sight. He explains that a major incident occurred here, causing K to freeze. Red recounts that, for the first time in history, 2 pioneers were found, completely drained and colorless. He adds that eyewitnesses saw a massive creature at the site. Red then turns sharply toward K. He zeroes in on the suspiciously convenient timing. He observes that right after that creature made its appearance, was revealed as the first to manifest the black color. Is it just a coincidence? He asks, eyes glowing. As Red meticulously analyzes K's power, labeling it an ability that absorbs other colors. K nervously sweats as Red fixes him with a piercing stare, proclaiming this a completely alien ability. K's internal alarm bells blare, realizing Red caught onto the connection right from the start. He frantically wonders if he can bolt, but facing the man's overwhelming aura, he knows escaping a hero like this is hopeless. Suddenly, Red lets out a booming laugh. Shattering the tension, he waves his hand, admitting he was just putting K to the test, but gripes that K's honest reaction sucked all the fun out of it. K just stares, completely confused. Red quickly explains that, officially, his job is to investigate the incident, but he's personally much more interested in K's one-of-a-kind ability. Red explains that color powers are usually impossible to mix, not at all. Yet, he notes that K's ability completely disregards those rules. He brings up the second exam, stressing that K clearly couldn't control his power. K then stammers, scrambling for an explanation, but Red abruptly cuts him off. The colorist's body glows with pulsing red energy, and he announces, "We need to run a test." K stares, bewildered. Red extends his hand, explaining that he has to grasp how this ability truly works. He flashes a confident smile, daring K to try absorbing his energy now. K panics, attempting to refuse, warning Red, "It's too dangerous." Red just scoffs, telling the rookie, "You're far too early to be worrying about someone at his level." K falls silent, a mix of intensity and nervousness on his face, as Red commands him, "Stop talking and just try it." The color black symbolizes the Black Lands, an ominous force that consumes all. Red believes leaving such a dangerous ability unchecked is simply unacceptable, as it could shake the very foundation of the Shining. A dark secret about the city creeps into his mind. Yet, the public remains oblivious. But humanoid creatures truly exist. He gives K a silent warning. If he ever faces them, or, even worse, turns into one, the colorist might be forced to eliminate him. K sighs deeply, sensing the terrifying pressure radiating from Red. Despite the intense intimidation, K agrees to the test. He nervously grabs Red's wrist, asking for confirmation. If anything goes wrong, it won't be his fault. As dark energy pulses from his body, the very moment they touch, a shockwave of raw energy distorts the air. K gasps as Red's energy violently surges into his arm, a sharp contrast to his own black aura. He instantly realizes he's made a grave mistake. A massive explosion of pure fire erupts from their point of contact, causing K to scream out in sheer agony. Inside the raging inferno, he shouts for Red to stop, confessing he can no longer control the power, and that it feels just like molten lava is boiling alive inside him. In his burning vision, Red appears as a towering, godlike silhouette of pure, raw fire, reinforcing why he truly stands as a hero. Red stands calmly within the inferno, observing. He notes that K's black energy is actively sucking in his power, without rest, acting as if utterly starving. He realizes that because K's power is still immature, strong individuals can resist the absorption, but this terrifying ability would be instantly fatal to most ordinary people. As the furious flames swirl, Red's eyes narrow with even deeper curiosity. He ponders. What they witnessed during the exam cannot possibly be the full extent of this ability. He decides he desperately wants to know, not just how K absorbs colors, but how those absorbed colors are truly used. The intense situation rapidly escalates, as the energy between the two violently reacts. Red watches as the black energy from K's arm begins to warp and spike, mixing with the powerful red aura. Suddenly, a massive explosion of red and black energy bursts outward. Red is forcefully pushed back by the blast. He stares in utter shock at the figure emerging from the smoke. K has partially transformed. His right side is now encased in a jagged, demonic armor of solidified red and black energy. Red grits his teeth, realizing this form is ominously familiar. As he stares at the monstrous, clawed hand and glowing eye, Red admits to himself that he'd believe he was looking at a creature. The resemblance confirms his worst suspicions, and he realizes with certainty that K was behind the incident, where the other pioneers lost their colors. K struggles desperately to maintain consciousness. Red decides his immediate priority is safety, and resolves to put out this raging fire, before K goes on an uncontrollable rampage. He quickly summons a ball of flame, preparing to subdue K by force. However, K lets out a chilling, low growl, causing Red to freeze in his tracks, as the boy appears to be fighting something else entirely. The scene shifts, diving into K's internal perspective. A pitch-black void, screaming with demanding red text. The power's voices shriek at him, demanding intense color and urging him to bring even more. K gasps, Back in the real world, distressed by these relentless, intrusive voices, the voices continue to tempt him, insidious and sweet, whispering it's wasteful to hold back, and urging him, no, demanding him, to take it. K mentally screams at the voices to times shut up, asterisk, and stay crushed. With fierce determination, K's visible eye glows a furious red. He rejects the temptation completely, ordering the power to shut up and stay crushed. As he exerts his immense will over the chaotic energy, a powerful shockwave blasts outward. As he forcibly compresses the raw energy back down, the jagged, demonic armor dissipates, leaving Red staring with a look of genuine surprise. K is left panting heavily, utterly exhausted from the exertion. Red looks at him, both impressed and utterly stunned, asking if the rookie actually managed to suppress that overwhelming, monstrous power on his own. K is left panting, his heart racing wildly. He thinks it's insane that he survived this, and frantically wonders why he went berserk. He glances up nervously, terrified he lost control in front of a colorist. Knowing he desperately needs to grasp his new ability, K hesitantly approaches the older man. Red, however, looks absolutely delighted, admitting he was totally caught off guard. The power K absorbed was far stronger than he ever anticipated, but he grins, proudly declaring the experiment a roaring success. Why? Because it was simply fun. He tells K that if he truly wants to achieve anything, he has to be willing to take massive risks. Red decides that's enough for the test for now, but then he pauses, saying there's just one more thing. He reminds K that he's the investigator, assigned to the destruction incident, right at this very spot, and his duty is to find the culprit. With a calm, yet utterly threatening, smile, he points out that the person standing right in front of him looks like a perfect suspect. K freezes solid, his face instantly paling with sheer panic. Red coolly explains the absolute gravity of the situation. He recalls how witnesses saw a massive, terrifying shadow creature, warning K that far. More people are invested in this case than he could ever imagine. He argues that once rumors about K's mysterious black ability spread, it'll be incredibly easy for authorities to pin all the blame on him. He gestures to the utterly ruined industrial district, noting the damages will easily cost hundreds of millions. He adds that if the city leadership decides K is simply too dangerous, he could be banished, or, even worse, turned into a lab rat. K grits his teeth, seething in utter frustration, realizing he's completely trapped. He knows there's absolutely no way to prove his innocence. Suddenly, Red offers a surprising lifeline. He suggests that if K agrees to come under his command, he might just be able to do something. Without a second of hesitation, K bows at a perfect 90-degree angle, loudly shouting that he puts himself entirely in Red's care. Red tells him to listen to the full conditions first. He clarifies he won't fix everything for free, of course. In exchange, K will have to grant him a few crucial favors. He asks if K thinks he can truly handle that. K forces a desperate, trembling smile, internally screaming that anything is better than owing millions, or becoming a terrifying science experiment. He loudly agrees, promising to do absolutely anything Red needs. In the desolate, barren wasteland, a small creature trembles in pure terror. Just moments before, a massive wheel slams down, narrowly missing it as a heavy vehicle roars past. A massive, armored transport truck drives through the foggy, rugged terrain of the Blacklands. Inside, K gazes out the window, thinking this is his first time traveling this far out. He wonders if this truly is his first real step as a pioneer. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Gale, a green-haired man who glares at him, calling him black-haired one. Gale rudely tells K he's being distracting, and orders him to shut up, even though K hasn't said a single word. K looks at him with a thoroughly confused expression. K sits awkwardly in the transport bay. He thinks that starting as a pioneer immediately was what he wanted, but the atmosphere is incredibly tense. He glances at the furious Gale, and the silently observing Ellie Cyan, questioning if being on the same team is the right move. A flashback reveals a conversation from the day before. Red asks a surprised K if he's ready to join the exploration, explaining he needs him to go to a specific spot in the uncharted area. Seeing K's nervous expression, Red laughs and tells him not to worry. Red shows K a map, assuring him he won't be alone. He explains that new recruits who pass the exam will also be deployed to the area, and that the official roadmap will be announced soon. K just needs to be at the location on time. Back in the present, K looks at his teammates, noting they were already on the truck. It's revealed that because Red's interference compromised the previous exam, the participants were given another chance. Many skilled individuals, including Gale, passed strict additional tests. Meanwhile, Ellie Cyan, the top-ranked rookie, joined Red's team at her own specific request. Gale stares at Kay with intense resentment, unable to believe he was humiliated by a fool. He thinks back to their fight, convinced he only lost because he let his guard down. He swears it won't happen again. He then threatens Kay, warning him to be ready once this exploration wraps up. He mutters, if Ravian hadn't been behind him, Kay would already be dead. Ellie Cyan interrupts, her voice ice cold, telling Gale to stop running his mouth, mocking that he'd probably go down in one hit. Gale, once again, whirls on her, seething, demanding what she just said. Ellie merely dismisses him, stating, Gale is no match for Kay. Kay looks at Ellie, surprised and hopeful, thinking she might be someone he can actually relate to. However, Ellie then turns her cold gaze to Kay, confusing him by bringing up some past agreement they supposedly made. She then glares at him, stating that the loser needs to stay quiet and follow orders, leaving Kay utterly bewildered. Kay stands awkwardly between the two hostile pioneers. Feeling the immense pressure, he sighs, realizing this team dynamic will be a nightmare to manage. The scene shifts as a transport vehicle moves across the dark waters of the wasteland towards a distant facility. The vehicle arrives at a bustling loading dock, with workers bustling around, moving supplies. The group disembarks. Kay, Ellie, Gale, and the other recruits step out into the forward base. For the Dawn Pioneering Corps, Kay is in awe of the sheer level of activity, noting the S-Rank Corps' exceptional supplies, something he hadn't realized at all when he ventured into the Blacklands alone. Suddenly, a finger pokes Kay's cheek, startling him. He turns to see a smiling Mari, who cheerfully explains that, since this is his first mission, she just had times to come along to support him. Mari opens her jacket, revealing Nero has tagged along. Kay holds the black cat, thanking Mari for taking care of him. She smiles warmly, saying Nero is family. She explains she got a great opportunity to join the exploration team as support staff, stating her skills are useful here. A loudspeaker blares. It's assembly time. The crowd of pioneers stands in the gray wasteland as the announcement continues that they will soon enter the Black Lands. Kay entrusts Nero to Mari's care, asking her to look after him. Mari warns him not to do anything reckless, and he just smiles, promising to see her later. Mari pulls Nero into a hug, but the cat suddenly springs from her arms. Startled, she cries out Nero's name, as the cat dashes toward Kay, then vanishes into the shadow on the ground. Mari's eyes widen in utter shock at the unnatural movement. Confused, she stammers, trying to call out to Kay. The group soon arrives at a dark, fortified cave entrance. At the forefront, a woman with bright orange hair and a white coat shouts for everyone to prepare, announcing that a new recruit is about to enter the Blacklands. She yells that safety is their absolute top priority. She warns that recon has reported unidentified, dangerous creatures lurking in Area 21, a notoriously perilous zone, where an A-rank creature's body was discovered. Suddenly, a male pioneer rushes up to the orange-haired woman, calling her Orancia. He nervously reports that the red team leader has brought the new recruits, but they've left their formation without permission. Orancia's eyes widen in shock, asking if it's true. The messenger confirms it, and Orancia sighs, lamenting that that guy Times is causing trouble again. The group secretly enters a dark canyon, moving away from the main army. Colorist, Red reaches his hand into the shadows, leading the way. The small squad, consisting of Kay, Gale, and Ellie, and Red, separates from the main formation. Kay nervously asks the team leader if this is truly okay, pointing out that the main team is heading in a completely different direction. Red confirms that their destination is indeed different. Kay looks back at Gale and Ellie, worried, because the entire squad consists of new recruits. Gale suddenly snaps, demanding to know why he and Ellie had times to follow. He shouts that he heard Red only intended to take Kay, and he feels completely insulted. Red just smiles, his red aura flaring brightly. He explains that his personal guidance isn't something just anyone can receive. It wouldn't be fair if Kay was the only one to benefit. He assures an angry Gale that, while he won't spoon-feed them, he also won't let them get seriously hurt. He cuts the conversation short, ordering them to move out. Kay's eyes widen as they encounter enemies. Deep inside a cavern, the group is surrounded by shadow creatures. While Red holds a lantern, Kay, Gale and Ellie engage in a chaotic melee. A massive, wolf-like beast lunges out of the darkness. Ellie Kion reacts instantly, her blue energy sword piercing through the creature's body. She lands gracefully, realizing this is the reality of the Black Lands. Surrounded by glowing eyes, she notes the suffocating environment and constant waves of monsters, acknowledging it's different from training. She grips her sword, resolving to manage her strength carefully. Ellie glances over her shoulder, thinking she needs to move more efficiently. She looks at Kay, and tells herself she doesn't want to fall behind him. Meanwhile, Kay grips a shadow creature by the neck, and brutally crushes it with his bare hand. Ellie Kayan looks at Kay with total shock. She asks him why he isn't using a dropper. Kay hesitates, recalling the entry exam, and admits that he doesn't have one. He explains they are too expensive, and that he feels fine fighting without one, leaving Ellie staring in disbelief. Gale is flabbergasted, shouting, "It makes no sense for a pioneer to have never used one." A dropper is an essential tool for pioneers, used to infuse weapons with color energy. To fight creatures, and to properly hunt these monsters, one must color them using a dropper. The group looks at Kay, standing over the defeated enemies, and they question how he managed to defeat them, barehanded, without the essential tool. Gale's hand trembles as he grips his own weapon, realizing the gap in their abilities. He recalls the humiliation of the exam, realizing he couldn't even scratch someone who wasn't using a dropper. Gale grits his teeth in frustration. He glares venomously at Kay's back, swearing he'll personally crush Kay with his own hands one day. As they delve deeper into the cave, Red lights the way with a lantern, while Gale trails behind, seething with anger. Fred glances back at his squad with a smirk, thinking it's quite the sight to see two geniuses driven to their limits by a mere rookie. He grins, certain that things are only going to get even more interesting. He then cheerfully urges the group to give it their all, telling them they're practically there, and suggests they finish up fast for a party.